to the Christian Village Church in Forked River, New Jersey. And as we stand on the advent of this great new age, tonight you're with us and we're exploring the Zodiac and the Bible. And we're looking at the constellation Taurus, the bull. So you should have an interesting time tonight as you join with us, okay? What we're looking at in particular, I didn't get a chance to run off some new ones, but if you don't have one, you can order one. And incidentally, talking about ordering something, the book that I recommend to you, The Dictionary of Myth and Scripture, which I think is, nobody should pick up a Bible without it. It's written by G. Gaskill. It's out of print. They can get it at this Bay bookstore on Lacey Road in Forked River. So, you know, if you're of a mind to get that, that's fine. Looking at Taurus the bull, we're going to enter in and discuss the decans of Taurus, which are Orion, Eridanus, and Auriga. And Orion is the light. A lot of people call it Orion, like that. So I call it Orion because it sounds more spacey. Orion is the light, and then of Eridanus, E-R-I-D-A-N-U-S, which is the river, and Auriga, A-U-R-I-G-A, which is the shepherd. Okay. Now, you understand, of course, that in every constellation there are 3 decans. They make up 10 degrees each. So there's 30 degrees in each constellation. There's 12 constellations, which make the 360 degrees of the circle. In the same way that there's 3 gates on each side of the city and so forth and so on. All of these things being consciousness. And as we look into these things, we find that the decans and the constellations are not up there to form some kind of night covering for your mooning and swooning and lovemaking. They're there to tell of the plan of the universe. And the plan of the universe, amazingly enough, is a secondary constellation, a secondary sky, which is inside of your head. It's all in your mind. It is all in your mind. Everything that happens relative to your mind. And it depends the condition that your mind is in, whether you're prepared to accept it or you're going to freak. It's just totally that. It's not the question of what comes up against you from the outside. It has nothing to do with it. It's how do you perceive what's coming against you from the outside, and how are you adapted to deal with what's coming at you from the outside. In some instances, people see something coming from the outside, and they deal with it. No big deal. Other people absolutely freak out and go into a rage. Well, it's not the situation out there. It's the situation in here. And this is what has to be changed. This is where the entire Zodiac, this is where the entire Bible leads us to a point of finding the center within us. You can't, as someone said recently, you're not going to be able to grow your flowers in the desert. You have to come into the garden. And this place provides you a garden where the soil is fertile for you to begin to understand. Because it's easy to tell you meditation and to go in and find something with your mind, but if you don't have any instruction, you don't understand what you're doing for, your mind can't coordinate with it. As you begin to understand these things, you know what you're doing, you know what's happening, you know what's going on, then your mind and your brain can acclimate to it and things can start to happen for you. And it's the only possible way to survive in this life. So we're looking at Orion, Eridanus, and Auriga, the light, the river, and the shepherd, and they're all part of what? The bull, that constellation that is a symbol of exactly what it is. It's the flesh, it's the ego, it's the strength, it's the pushing, the shoving, the wildness of our tempers. It's the bull signifies the determination that we have to plow through and get our own way and do whatever we want to do. That's what it is. That's Taurus. And here then we come flat up against Taurus, and we start to look at other parts of Taurus which are contained within it, the Orion, Eridanus, and Auriga. And we're going to look at Orion. Orion is a magnificent constellation which, after somebody showed it to us, you can see every night, I guess, if you look in the right direction. But it's a magnificent constellation, Orion, the light. You know, you'll see Orion, and you'll always notice it because there's a big star up on the left-hand corner, a big star in the right-hand corner, a big star in the lower left, a big star in the lower right that makes a box, and right across the center is the 3 stars that, you know, form that belt. And that's Orion. Orion means light, and it is the most brilliant of all the constellations. Okay? There was an ancient astrologer by the name of Aratus, and actually, and I'll show you one day where the Apostle Paul quotes him in the New Testament, and he said this about Orion: "Eastward beyond the region of the bull stands great Orion, and who, when night is clear, beholds him gleaming bright, you shall cast your eyes in vain to find a sign more glorious in all heaven than Orion." That's beautiful. On page 459 of those little Bibles, the rest of you, if you go to the book of Job and come to Job, and let's go to verse 38, okay? Job 38. Now here then, you find that which is the bull, that which is your ego, that which is all of the things that frighten you, those things which cause you to bang your head into a wall trying to accomplish things which you never really can get accomplished. And in Job 38, there's a reference to Orion. And remember now, Job, the book of Job in your Bible, is an Oriental play. Get that? It's an Oriental play. Actually, a beyond Buddhist origin is what it is. You want to make it easier? It's like a Chinese play is what it was. Oriental play, written approximately 54 to 5,500, well, 5,400 to 6,000 years ago, and the constellation Orion is mentioned. If you go to Job chapter 38 and go to verse 31, "Can you bind the sweet influence of Pleiades or loose the bands of Orion?" Can you loose the bands of Orion? Can you loose that light which is in bondage? In other words, in the center of the bull, in the center of your absolute insane, bedlam-ridden mind, there is a light. That's Orion. Can you loose it? Can you allow it to become a flower within you? Can you finally allow it to generate within you a germ of peace and understanding? Can you allow Orion to be a ruler in your life instead of Taurus? Can you do that? Can you be set free? Well, in Matthew 6:22, Jesus Christ said, yes, you can. If your eye be single, your body will fill with Orion. If your eye be single, your body will fill with light. Single eye, the dot in the middle of the head of a Hindu, the sign in the back of a $1 bill, the meditation when you lift yourself into a divine conscious realm above the thoughts of the mind is the single eye. If you can do that, you will loose from within yourself a tremendous light that will start to lead you into higher realms of thought, higher realms of understanding. I had an occasion with Joan last night to watch Christian television for about 35 seconds. And then in absolute utter disgust, both of us reached for the dial and turned it off. The owner or the director of this Christian television station presented a gift to one of the singers in the choir or somebody, another person that they knew. And what it was a frog playing a harp. It wasn't a ceramic frog. They all laughed because it was a real frog that had been killed and stuffed to make this little toy. And the insensitivity of these people, not understanding that there is as much God in that frog as there is in them, was beyond my wildest beliefs that we could even see. And this is Christian television. And they all laughed. And I looked at this animal whose life had been taken to make a toy for some born-again kook, you see. And I really became incensed as Joan became incensed. I couldn't wait to turn this thing off. And then I realized this is what we're talking about, and this is the kind of insensitivity, this is the kind of laughter, this is the kind of joking about taking the life of a thing for an ornament, you know, and then professing the love of Jesus Christ was a total misunderstanding of what life is about. And you only understand what life is about when you loose that Orion, when you loose the bands of Orion, when you allow that light to generate from within you. Otherwise, your life goes on, and it becomes an upheaval and a crisis, one after the other. But when you loose the bands, when you allow the single eye, it stops. And you begin to understand that which is you is God. You are wearing a mask. I am wearing a mask. And we play with our little masks. And we go out and we scream with each other because we're running around with a mask on. But deep within you is actually the mind of God. Deep within you is the personality of God yearning for you to come. That's what Jesus, you remember when Jesus stood at the well? He waited for the woman. He didn't go with it. He sat by that well and waited for the woman, because the well is the place where the deep water comes from. The well is the place where the deep truth comes from. He sat at that well. And woman in the Bible means spirit. He sat and waited for that spirit to come. And when she came, he gave her the living water. And she left her water pot, meaning she would never go and try to take truth or generate her life the same way again. And she went back and she was healed. That's what he's doing within each one of us. Inside of you, there's that well. And that Jesus sits and waits for you to come and to drink that water. And unfortunately, most of us don't even know that it's there. And the rest of us are scared to death to go there because of what we've been told by people like these so-called religionists on television who would joke and laugh about taking the life of an animal for an ornament. But anyhow, Orion comes in the midst of Taurus, in the midst of the flesh, the fire in the midst of the bush. Now, if you look and you'll see something, gee, I wish you all had one of these, but you don't, and I don't know what I can do about that. But his left foot is raised as if to crush the enemy, which relates to Genesis 3, chapter 15. And in Genesis 3, which is practically the first page of the Bible, Genesis 3, chapter 15, it says there that and I will put enmity between thee and the woman. In other words, between you and the spirit, see? And between your seed and her seed, it, meaning her seed, the spirit shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So the light is about ready to do battle with that which is the lower serpent by raising that left foot. Now also I want you to notice, if you will, that around his center, or his abdomen, if you can see it here, he wears the golden girdle, which is a very important thing and a very important part of mysticism in the Bible. That, if you'll go to Revelation chapter 1, all the way to the last book in the Bible, and verse 13, you see that it says, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, and that represents the 7 chakras of your spine, the 7 nerve centers, in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. And that golden girdle is worn by Orion. Now also, around his middle, he wears the sharp sword. You can see he's carrying the sharp sword, and you can read about that on page 595 of the little Bibles, in the book of Isaiah. And that's in Isaiah chapter 27. Isaiah chapter 27. In that day, the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent. So he's prepared to do battle with the sword. He has raised his left foot to bruise the serpent's head. He has the golden girdle. He has the sword. Okay, but interestingly enough, and I want you, if you have one of these, to look closely at it. If you don't, if you have one, maybe you can show somebody near you. But if you'll look very carefully, you'll see that the handle of that sword is in the shape of the head of a lamb. Do you see that? No, that's very interesting. That's, I mean, the drawing, who connected the dots and made the drawing? It's from over 6,000 years ago. But that head of that sword, the handle of it, is the head of the lamb. Were they able to see that on TV, Elliot? Okay, thank you. Now, there's a scripture that's very important, because when you see that, you see the sword with the head of the lamb on it. Go back then to the last page, or page 236 in the New Testament, to Revelation chapter 17. Okay, Revelation chapter 17. And you'll see verse 14. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. So you see, it's the power, the sword, in this particular instance from Orion, excuse me, which is the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. The Lamb shall be victorious over them. If you look also at Orion, in his right hand he holds the club. Okay, always, 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 you'll see that these great warriors and these great powers in mysticism, the power is in the right hand. And that signifies the power that comes from the right side. And that's where Jesus says, cast your net to the right side of the boat. And 1 Kings 6:8 says they put the door to the holy place to the right side of the boat. The whole matter then is right brain, left brain. That's everything. If you wanted to sum up what gets taught in this church, it's right brain, left brain. You know about your left brain. Every kind of conceivable, hideous, screwed up thing that's happened in your life has come from the left brain. Everything. So it would seem to be in your interest and my interest and the interest in the rest of us to find out what's on the other side of the street and move over there and see what comes from the right brain, because that's where the Bible admonishes us to start generating those new brain cells. You know, if you look, in fact, in the very beginning of the Bible, and this might be interesting for you to see, but when you look north, okay, east is always on the right. And if you go back with me to the book of Genesis in the Bible, I'll show you something, because this is where you're looking to return to. Where are you trying? You say, mystically, symbolically, where are you trying to arrive at? Okay. Well, let's take a look and see. And it says that, I'll probably have trouble finding it, okay? In the Garden of Eden is where we'll want to go. And let me find if I can see. It says in Genesis that God took, okay, Genesis 2, chapter 2, verse 15, verse 14, okay? Well, verse 15, and the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it, okay? Now look at verse 8. And the Lord God planted a garden. Whereabouts was it in Eden? Eastward, absolutely. Why is it in the east? Because it's to the right side. Okay? So then the Garden of Eden is the right hemisphere of your brain. You're saying, well, how can you prove it? I can't prove a doggone thing that I say. I never could. You're the only one that can prove that. If it's wrong when you go into the garden, nothing will happen. If it's right when you go into the garden, your life will start to improve. All right? And that's, you'll see, when they put the door to the holy place on the right side of the building. Everything is east. It says they planted the vineyard. They planted the vineyard with God's right hand. And here, everything is east. Eastward in Eden. Why not westward? Why even bother saying where it was? Because it's important that you know that the garden is on the right side. So then symbolically, everything you've learned from a child concerning the Garden of Eden is actually talking about the right hemisphere of your brain. And if that is true, then you have access to enter to the Garden of Eden. And the way that you enter the Garden of Eden is by shutting down that which is outside of the garden of the left side. Okay? That's where the Apostle Paul in Hebrews 10:19. I don't know if how many of you could find that, but it's interesting if you could. I don't have the page that it's on in your little Bibles, but if you know where the book of Hebrews is, and if you can find that in the New Testament, and you go to Hebrews 10, oh gosh, it's right before the book of James. It's very near the end of the Bible. If you go to the Hebrews 10, okay, 206 in those little Bibles. And I want you to be alert for this. Be alert and listen to what I'm saying, okay? The reason I'm asking you, be alert, even if it's a little warm in here or whatever, is because, doggone it, you know, we get a half hour of this and then it's over. And the most important things that you can understand is begin to realize why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you meditating? Why are you separating from no thought? What, is it really realistic to try to drive energy over to the right side? Hebrews 10, verse 19. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holiest by the blood of Jesus. Okay, the holiest is the Holy of Holies. That's the most important place. That's the Garden of Eden. That's the place where God dwells. And you saw where it says that the garden is eastward in Eden, over to the right side. And of course, Jesus has said, cast your net to the right side. So what I'm proposing to you then is that the place of the right hemisphere of your brain is that famous Garden of Eden of the Old Testament, where you can return and attach yourself and start eating from the tree of life and seeing your life change. Seeing your life change. All right? Okay, let's get back to Orion, and look what he's got in his left hand, the head of a lion. He has separated that lion from his body. And that lion is the famous roaring lion that Peter talked about. Satan goes around as a roaring lion. So with the power that comes from the right side, Orion has been able to smash the lion and bring him to bay. Of course, with the sword of the Lamb and his left foot raised to crush the enemy. He epitomizes everything which we are told comes then from higher realms of consciousness. The brightest star in his right shoulder, which is, I always called it Beltegeist, but Al corrected me, and the name of the star is Betelgeuse. I don't like that, but anyhow, I changed all the names of these things. That star in the right shoulder, which is Beltegeist or Betelgeuse, as Al would say, means the branch. Okay. It's the brightest star in the constellation that means light. Orion, the brightest star, means the branch. Now, without a doubt, if you were to take this into Sunday school at a church, Christian church, they say, well, then this is about Jesus, the branch that should grow out of the stem of Jesse. But I want to challenge that idea. First of all, I want you to look on page 765 in your little Bibles, and the rest of you go to the book of Zechariah. Okay, Zechariah is after, let's see, it's after Habakkuk, but just before Matthew. All right, it's in the Old Testament. And go to Zechariah chapter 3 and verse 8. Okay, page, for the rest of you, I said it's on page 765. Zechariah chapter 3, verse 8. Hear now, O Joshua the high priest, and thy fellows that sit before you, for they are men wondered at, for behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. You see that? And that's the name of the star that is glistening. When you look up, someday we're all going to go out in the field and see this, because I saw this one night. You look up at that constellation, you'll see that bright star. There's one star in the right corner, one in the left corner, one in the lower left, one in the lower right, and three in the middle. It forms like an H. And that bright star in the right corner, in the upper right corner, is Beltegeist, Betelgeuse, the branch. And why it's important for you to look at that is because it says, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. Now go to page 105 in the New Testament and go to the book of John, John 15. Okay, John 15, verse 5. What does Jesus say? He didn't say he was the branch. John 15, verse 5, Jesus says, I am the vine, you're the branch. You're the branch. In other words, that bright star in the sky, the brightest star in Orion, is you. Isn't it fantastic to think of a creative, universal God consciousness that placed that beacon of light up there that you can look and say, that's you. That is placed up there for you. Not for Jesus, not for Buddha, not for Krishna, but for you. That bright star is Rick. That bright star is Joan, Elliot. All the rest of you said, that's your star looking up there. And it's called the branch. And it says, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. And Jesus Christ said, you're the branch. If we're going to believe Jesus in the Bible, then we're going to have to say, I'm the branch. That's my star. That's me. What's it doing up there? What's such a bright light? Because of the potential that you have, simply if you'll trust that which is inside of you instead of them who are outside of you. That's your choice. That's your choice. You got to trust that which is inside or them that's outside. And on the left foot, there's a star called Regal, which it means that which crushes. So here's the glory of God. And it's the glory of you, it's the glory of me, if we'll learn to follow the stars, if we'll learn to understand them. In a week, we're going to begin studying the constellation Aquarius. Uranus entering into Aquarius. And I'm going to share with you that, plus I'm going to share with you how it affects you as an individual, you as a person. If you open yourself to this, your life will change in such a radical way you wouldn't even recognize you're the same person. That's how tremendous this is. And you may not understand how this works. I don't either, except I know that when the moon's in the right position, the tides flow right over the top of the wall. How come? I don't know. Does it suck it up? I haven't any idea. Something happens because of the gravity, the vibrations, whatever, and you're 80% seawater, salt water. And it affects each, and this thing that's coming, like a steam train, is spinning in a way opposite of every constellation that's in the sky. Am I right? All the rest are going this way, this one's coming going that way. Spinning counterclockwise. And the ancients said that when Uranus comes, it causes upheaval in traditional ways. Everything that you thought of a traditional thought of your life, you plug into this, bang, you're going to spin the other way. Everything is going to change. The way you think is going to change. The way you act is going to change. The things you do, your life, everything is going to change. And for the better, not for the worse. But all you know, how does anybody make you believe this? You can simply say, okay, I want to plug into a harmony with the universe, so let me do this. And I've told you and I've showed you, here is Uranus. You know, just quickly for a few of you who might not have heard this, but Uranus in the ancient mythology was once married to Gaia. Gaia is Mother Earth. Uranus was Gaia's husband. They had children. One of them was a brat named Saturn. And Saturn came along with a sickle, time. See, your mind always focuses on time. It's either the past or the future. It can never dwell in the present. It can never enjoy the fact that you're alive. It can never enjoy the fact that you're in reasonably good health. It can never enjoy the fact that you have a house and you have a car. And things are pretty nice and you're able to sit down out of the cold. It's always plotting what's going to happen tomorrow or what happened last time. And with that sickle time, Saturn castrated God. Saturn castrated Uranus, which means that God's seed was no longer able to filter into the minds of men and women anymore. Then one day, from the ocean depths, from God's deepest truth, came Venus, love. And Venus, with the aid of the Cyclops, which is the single eye, overthrew Saturn, kicked Saturn out of heaven, and restored Uranus. And all of these thousands of years, Uranus has had one purpose, Rick. I'm going back to get my woman. I'm coming back to get my bride. And he is anywhere from 3 years away to a maximum 19 years away of a wedding. And you know the amazing thing? As he comes lumbering back, nothing can stop him from reconsummating this marriage. This marriage is going to take place in the sign of Aquarius. The man with the pitcher of water, the Jesus Christ who stood at the marriage supper of Cana with the pitcher of water and turned it into wine. Right there in that same place will be the reunion of Uranus and Gaia. And what did Jesus say? When you see the man with the pitcher of water, whew, that's it. Now, you don't have to believe this biblically. You don't have to be an astrologer. You can go to the planetarium or the sanitarium. I don't really care what. You'll read about it. It's going to happen. Doesn't make any difference whether you believe it or not. It's still going to happen. And it is chugging its way. Right now as we're sitting here, this great planet moving in the opposite direction is saying, hold on, honey, I'm coming. I'm coming. Uranus is coming back to claim the Earth. That's why all the upheaval. Because when Uranus starts spinning in a counterclockwise direction at a right angle to the Earth's axis, everything changes. All of the traditional things go down the drain. And if you don't believe that, so ask Gorbachev. Ask them all. Ask any of them. And watch it on the universe. But ask yourself. But see, you can be a part of the old, or you can be a part of the new. And only you can make that decision. Only you can make that decision. Okay, just quickly. The next decon in Taurus, is Eridanus, E-R-I-D-A-N-U-S. Can you see it? It's the river. It's probably the largest constellation in the heavens. It just extends from one side of the heavens to the other. Eridanus, which is the river. The river. It's called the River of the Judge. The River of the Judge. And the ancients, Albert, considered this to be the Euphrates which flowed out of the Garden of Eden. Who knows? In Arabic is Fatat, P-E-H-T-A-T, which means the mouth of the river. The brightest star is Acherner, which is the after part of the river. And there's a star Zodiac, which is flowing, and a star Cursa, which is bent. Now you notice that the river flows from Orion, the great light. That is a symbol of the river which flows from your higher divine right hemisphere of your brain down into the lower part of your body. If you will look at something, you'll see something very interesting. Do you notice that big claw extending over, trying to stop the river? That's Cetus, the monster of the lower depths. When the river of life starts moving through you, that lower monster will do everything possible to stop it. Okay? You know what's so interesting? It's all there. It's all like, you know, sometimes you connect the dots in some of the things you do at school or whatever. Well, it's the same basic thing. Somebody connected the dots in the sky. We call him God, for lack of a better name. Sounds good to me. But look at, he put that claw of Cetus right there. But notice something. The river is still flowing. He didn't stop it. It doesn't stop at the claw of the monster. But see, that's where you'll start to get interested. You start to get, things start going good. You start feeling better. And that big claw of the sea monster stops the river, and you're not here anymore until, you know, the ravages happen because there's no more water flowing, and you start to thirst and become dry. And the ancient traditions called Eridanus the river which flows from the great light. And the fire is spirit, which flows onward and burns away all the hurt of our souls. Look in page 730 of your Old Testament, if you would. The rest of you go to the book of Dan. Daniel, okay? Chapter 7. Daniel, chapter 7. This is a river of fire. Eridanus is a river of fire. And if you look at Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 10, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000s before him, and the books were open. That's the fiery river of the judge. See, the books were open. The judgment was open. And that's the fiery river of the judge. We just have a page and a half of this to go, and then we'll launch into the very exciting Age of Aquarius next week. So I'd like to, you know, we'll just finish this up here. We'll take us but a few more minutes, and if you'll just stick with me, we'll be out of it, okay? Finally, we're going to the last decon, which is Auriga the Shepherd, and I love this one. He is cute, and look at the little goats crawling all over him. There's Auriga the Shepherd. Do you see him? And if you notice, there's one big goat up on his shoulder and two little baby goats down on his. Okay? That's where I guess maybe the thing came from. It said, boy, you get my goat. I don't know, maybe because of Taurus or whatever. But in the arm of the shepherd is the goat, and that's us. And notice the goat is climbing upward. Okay? Trying to climb upward is the goat. Constantly trying to climb. And the kids, the little goats, the offspring, the newness that comes out of the old, climbing into the higher mind. Do you remember when Jesus rode into Jerusalem? Okay? Remember he said, bring the ass, the donkey, which is your stubborn nature. Because he was going to control your stubborn nature, if you'll allow it, and ride it into Jerusalem, which is the presence of God. But he also said, bring the foal, bring the baby donkey. Why? Because there was a newness born out of the old. Out of the old stubborn nature is a new child, something new, something exciting, okay? In Ezekiel 34:22, it says, I will save my flock. They shall no more be prey. I will judge between cattle and cattle. In John 10:16, it says, other sheep I have not of this fold. There shall be one fold and one shepherd. And that shepherd signifies out of Taurus that which takes your old nature, the new which is born out of your old nature, and protects it from all of that which is the evil that surrounds it. The brightest star in the goat is Alioth, which is she-goat, which actually symbolizes the human spirit in the arms of the shepherd. And you'll see also a bright star in the right foot, which is El Nath, which means wounded. And again, that goes back to the Christ nature, which is wounded as it touches the earth. So we conclude Taurus, the mighty constellation Taurus, which is the flesh. And you see then, as you look at Taurus, and you understand that it represents your ego, your personality, the violent nature of man, and you begin to understand where then came the admonition in the Old Testament to sacrifice the bull. The bull must be sacrificed. And that's where it came from. And of course, what happens here? It's another burnt offering, Albert, because this is the ecliptic. The ecliptic is see, this is called the ecliptic. That's the path that the sun follows when it goes through the constellations. So once again, the fire of God will consume the bull. We have another burnt offering. And you begin to understand, too, just why these things were so... It's just a shame that they had to use real animals in this stuff instead of understanding the symbolic nature of it. The river flows down from Orion, a river of fire to purge away, and the flocks run up to the arms of the shepherd to be safe in his fold. All of these things, biblical stories written into the stars long before there was ever a Bible. And so my, then, thoughts tonight as we end this and we go into next week, the Age of Aquarius, and then we'll be spending a lot of time talking about Uranus and its movement into Aquarius, Uranus and its conjunction with Neptune. That's an interesting one. Before it gets to Aquarius, Uranus is going to have an entrance into Neptune. And that's going to happen in 1993. And at that point, the ancient mystics declared that when Uranus enters into Neptune, there is a tremendous realization of the power of the unconscious. Because Neptune stands for that, the unconscious. And Uranus will move into Neptune on its way to its great rendezvous and wedding with Aquarius, which will take place in 2010 or somewhere near there. And this Uranus conjunction with Neptune on its pathway to this wedding will take place in 1993. And the ancients always said, when Uranus enters Neptune, people will start to understand the realm of the unconscious. And there will be tremendous outpourings of knowledge that come from the upper realms of the unconscious. You're starting to feel it now, you know. You're starting to feel that now. So what's so interesting about this, then, is it's not just simply you're meditating. If it was that, well, we might have a problem, because many people in the past have gone into meditation, haven't gotten too far. But now you're getting the assistance because you're feeling, or you will open yourself to this tremendous vibration and sensitivity that will be coming from Uranus as it makes its way to that abode of the wedding with Aquarius. So where do you stand? The point being this. I would suggest to you that for those of you that are here and can come here, and you know, and I don't mean to say, but you'll be surprised how many people write from all over the country and say, I would give anything to be able to come. Anything. I have a guy that writes me, and I'm not going to say where because he might, but he says, you know, he's surrounded with people who just think he's nuts. But he says they're all excited about the war that's coming, and he's, you know, talking about, but he's the one that's crazy. And he said, I would do anything to come there. I have a guy from Campbellsville, Kentucky, and he knows who he is. And him and his friend are getting a pickup truck or something, and they are coming here. He says, as soon as the weather, he said, I ain't coming up there in that wintertime. But he says, as soon as the weather, we're coming right. He says, you got motels up that way? I said, what do you think? Are you in Kentucky? We're more advanced. Certainly but they're coming up from Kentucky because people have never seen this. What I'm saying to you is people have been into the New Age, but they never realized that where their roots were in the Bible and where their roots were in Christianity, beyond the words that they never were taught, lies the same story. And they're starting to really find us with excitement. People asking me, well, you know, in Oregon, who they can get in touch with that has a church like this. You see. So here we are then, and some of you are a mile away, 2 miles away. And you have the opportunity to sit in the midst of these vibrations of people who would love to have this opportunity. Because when you meditate at home, and you should by yourself, that's one thing. But when you come together here and the vibrations are risen and you start feeling the sensitivity of all of these things, everyone is starting to move the right hemisphere. Things happen, beautiful things happen. As we're getting near this situation coming up, December 31st. That'll tip you off, some of you, when this tape was made. Probably you're sweating to death. we're having a meditation here at 7 o'clock in the morning for